There we go. And we're recording. All right. Whoops. So good afternoon and welcome to the Poll Everywhere session. Poll Everywhere is a platform that allows you to spark real-time conversations. And we're going to cover some of the basics, how you get logged in, how you facilitate a Poll Everywhere presentation and results, and just started going over the basics and give you the information that you need to get started. I've worked with Sasha and Julie and Joseph a little bit, and Margaret. It's nice to have you here. I'm Dave Stoops, by the way, and I work with the Education Online and Canvas support team, and I help manage many of the instructional technologies that we engage with. One of those being Poll Everywhere, and Poll Everywhere is a new tool in our catalog of tools that we have to offer. It was opened up for us about 3 days before classes started. So just getting in and trying to figure it out quickly and learn as much as we can about it. And I see Kathleen is added. Welcome, Kathleen. We're just getting started with the session.
Thank you.
No problem. Just so you know, if you've ever used anything like iClicker in the past, or there's many different programs that have this similar functionality. iClicker is a big one, and N-Class is one that a couple of other instructors are using. Hi, Natasha, welcome. We're just getting started. Are some of the others, but Poll Everywhere is similar to those in that it allows for engagement, but it doesn't have the requirement that the students purchase a physical clicker or purchase access to the app. So it's a little bit different in that regard. So let's talk a little bit about the functionality that Poll Everywhere has. So it's going to allow you to create a unique, impactful experience, and you can deliver those experiences either before, during, or after a presentation. Before example would be quick polling for some information in regards to how you want your next lecture or presentation to go. Afterwards would be just some quick feedback on how a presentation went. And you'll find that most instructors use the Poll Everywhere system during class to gauge feedback, to make their presentations more engaging, and to just revisit and to hit some of those key points in asking questions that hit some of those key points as you're giving a presentation. You'll find that Poll Everywhere has multiple question types that you can choose from. The most common, obviously, being multiple choice, but there's also such things as short answer. There's word cloud. There's about 12 different question types that you can go in and choose. But like I said, I think the most common would be multiple choice. And I would start there as you're getting in and testing with Poll Everywhere, and then you can start to branch out to some of the other question types. It also gives you a variety of different ways for your learners to respond. They can either respond through the web, they can use their text function on their mobile device, and then there also is a mobile app that they can use to respond. So you have 3 different options there for them to provide their feedback. You can integrate your activities through an app that links with PowerPoint, Google Slides, and Apple Keynote. There's also a Slack one if you're using Slack, but I didn't include that in here just because I'm not sure of who all is using Slack. And then the other big part is UVA has a site license for Poll Everywhere. This is university-wide, and you get connected in via NetBadge. So it's one of the functions of Poll Everywhere that is unique, in that you don't have to worry about licensing like you would with iClicker or N-Class, and there's no purchasing on the students end like there is with the other services that I've helped out with in the past. So with every good, there is some things to think about. So in terms of considerations, right now it's good for engaging your class during a presentation. So far, I haven't been able to find a great way for this service to grade very well. It produces, in order to get your grade into Canvas, you have to export a CSV file and then import that into Canvas. And it's just a little bit wonky at the moment. I'm working with our representative at the university and with Poll Everywhere to make sure that our integration with Canvas is, we're using it in the correct way and that we're not missing something. So I will have more information for that in just a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, we just gained access to this a couple of days before class, and it's and since it's university wide, it's taking a little bit of time for us to test. And as you know, it or may or may not know, at UVA, there's a myriad of different learning management systems. We have Canvas and Colab, and there's a Blackboard. So for our representative managing all of this, we're just trying to find time and get things working out. So I'm just being upfront about that. And so we're working through, and I still think it's a great tool. Just takes a little bit of patience as we're all learning how it's going to work and to make things more efficient and smoother for you and for the students. There are some potential issues with student connectivity. That's the same with any of the technologies. Canvas through Zoom, you're aware that just from time to time things just aren't working. But there is a ton of support available from the Curry level. That would be me. UVA level, we have a representative, and then we also have Poll Everywhere support that we can contact them directly or through our representative, and they've been very responsive. And so with any of these tech issues, we do have support that we can rely on in order to get issues resolved. So just this, a lot of these considerations are just in line with transparency, just letting you know that there are some things that we're working through, but we do have support that we can engage with to find quick solutions for you. So one of the first areas I wanted to talk about with Poll Everywhere, because it's a new tool and because it involves some legwork for both you and for the students, I wanted to start with some information about how to introduce Poll Everywhere to your audience. This is before we create our activities. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how to get things integrated. But I wanted to start with this because this is a very crucial point in Poll Everywhere, is making it easy for everyone to participate with the service. So let's start. And I'm going to provide these documents for you that Poll Everywhere has in order to make this as smooth an experience as possible. Poll Everywhere has a best practices checklist. They do have in the activities page, there are resources available through that. And then they also let you know that they do have the Poll Everywhere app so that you can arrange your activities and slides. And I'm going to show you how all that works, as well as testing each of your activities before you get it out to your students. And then you also want to, early on in Poll Everywhere, you want to test this live, and you may want to do that with the first question for each class, just a simple question, just to make sure that everybody's able to get registered and get logged in, and that the system's going to work, and help mitigate some of those tech issues from the get-go. Definitely test it from within your Poll Everywhere account, but each class have that first question be a simple one that'll get everybody started. You're also going to want to make a script for your introduction to introduce the tool, just getting everybody comfortable with Poll Everywhere and what it can do and how they can engage with the activities. So these Poll Everywhere provides some sample scripts for how to explain what's happening, and then coming up with an icebreaker activity. Icebreaker activities are good for those test activities as you're getting into the service. And then you're also going to want to provide the methods for them to connect with Poll Everywhere and with the activities. And so when you create your activities, you'll be given a web link. You'll also be given information about how they can text in their response through their phone. And then you also will have information about how they can download the app and get registered through that, so that there's a seamless connection. So like I said, this information is provided by Poll Everywhere, and you'll then in turn make it available to your students to help with the integration process. They also have some images here to show you how this looks. So on the left-hand side, you have what web voting looks like. I had a couple of students in a class that we were getting this integrated with have trouble with their phone through the app. And so the recommendation was to go through the web. That worked really well. And then you also see on the right-hand side what it looks like for them in terms of text voting. We're going to test out this today with some samples I've created. We're also going to make a couple and test through this so you can see what it looks like from the student end of the activity. And then this is what the presentation and the looks like from a mobile device and from the computer. And you, whoops, went the wrong way. So you see here, this is the text versus the mobile. And so, like I said, you want to make sure to have your instructions out to the students up front. You want to create and test with the practice activity. Do that. You could do that with an icebreaker question, for instance. Make sure to take it slow, give the students time. And it also, a lot of this depends on how big your classes are. The first two classes that we're testing this with have 150 and 190 students respectively. So we're banking in extra time for them early on, more than just the 90 seconds to get them up and running and make sure things are going smoothly. And it seems to be going really well. You can imagine with 190 students that there are going to be some issues, but it's working pretty well. And the students have been saying that they like the experience. And so then there's also the option to mix it up. Make sure to bring the activities in every 10 to 15 minutes. Mixing it up also keeps them from getting, some instructors have the idea that they got to put it at the end to make sure that the students stay through the lecture, which isn't a bad idea, but part of the benefit to using Poll Everywhere is to engage with your students. And so bringing something in every 10 to 15 minutes can help engage and bring their minds back into the lecture, can also help you hit some of the key points that were covered in the minutes prior to the activity. And so just mixing it up helps with the engagement and really is an efficient use of the tool. And then again, offer some incentives, make some of the activities a game. You know, they don't always have to be about the content. It's just a good way, maybe halfway through, to give them a cognitive break, to think about, to give their minds a rest, and to get away from the content before jumping back in. And it helps keep energy levels up, and that in turn helps support retention and their passion for the course. All right, so a little bit about how this looks to the audience. This is how the responses look once you started to gather some of those responses. This is how the results will look to the students, as you display that to them. You also have the option not to display the results to them, or to delay the response to the students. So that's a little bit about getting started, some of the things to consider, some of the uses for Poll Everywhere, and just some best practices when considering using the tool. We're going to transition into a section where we start to talk about how to create activities and all that entails. Probably a good place to stop just for a moment and see if there are any questions going into the activities section.
Yeah, Dave, if possible, I just wanted to clarify that this is a little bit different from a app like or a program like Kahoot, and that students actually have to create an account if they're going to use the web or their phones, or is it a link that they're shown and they can actually kind of
tap into it? There will be a link, and I'll show you that once we start working on creating these activities. They'll be prompted to log in via NetBadge. And so one of the parts of getting this set up, so you have to, and honestly, it made me take a step back. You have two options here. One option is you can make this open and just provide them the link. The downside to that is that they don't this, you won't see which student, how they responded. So if you're interested in just an engagement tool and you're not interested in seeing how they responded, you can open it up that way. There's anonymity there. But if you're interested to see how they respond, you import your roster in through Canvas, and I'll show you how that works. I'm also, it is a little bit of a tricky process. So I'm also available to help you with that importing of the roster process. Once you import that roster and link it, when the student goes to sign in either through the app or through the web or through text, it'll have them sign in via NetBadge and then remember that. So then they're linked to the course, and then you can see who responded and how they responded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So building off of that, kind of a similar question, and maybe Natasha will ask this, she tends to share this concern. Since we work with K-12 teachers, and again, I'm always trying to model tools that they can use, this sounds like it's something that I would be open to use with them because they're NetBadge as grad students, but it's not something they could then in turn deliver or try to share with their K-12 students in an open link Kahoot style, correct?
There is an open link style or method to delivering content and activities through Poll Everywhere. And the only like I said, the only downside is that you wouldn't know who responded to and how they responded. So they can create activities to be used in the K-12 realm and in their K-12 classrooms. They just wouldn't know how each participant responded. It would be more of an engagement tool and not so much a grading tool.
Dave?
Yes.
If they use in their school system Canvas, or is it something that they could put into their LMS as well? Like if they liked the tool, or do you have to have a license or something?
There is a free version. I'd say the biggest hurdle here or with that is the LMS. So the LMS is tied into a single sign-on service, regardless of where the institution is. We use NetBadge at UVA. And so the LMS integration would allow for that single sign-on option at the K. So they would just the same as they log on to their institution's LMS, they could then log into Poll Everywhere, but that gets into the licensure
Right.
consideration. So what I would say is that they would be welcome to use the Poll Everywhere through their UVA affiliation. They just wouldn't have the ability to track who's responding, because they have that option to create the link that allows for polling. We have a question that came in through the chat from Sasha. Yes. Yeah, exactly, Sasha. You should, it's an engagement tool for K-12. And until they have a license, then it can be used for other things. And I don't know any of the information about the pricing, because like I said, this was a lot of the tools we use. I'm part of the process in terms of purchasing, but in this case I wasn't. So I'm not privy to the information on terms of cost. But we can always contact the sales department and see what they say. And I'll show you that information later on after we get through the activities part. Any other questions as we move on? All right, well, let's go and create some activities, and feel free to follow along as we transition into this piece. We are going to, let me log out of my account, and you're going to go to polleverywhere.com. I can put that in the chat real quick. Let me switch this over to everyone. polleverywhere.com is the URL. And when you click on login, as soon as you start to type in your UVA email, you have to give it the full @virginia.edu. Poll Everywhere will recognize that this is associated with the UVA NetBadge. So you'll click on that. And because I've logged in previously, it went ahead and logged me into my account. If it's the first time you're logging in, it will take you through the Duo authentication. And I'll give just a moment if anybody's following along. I'll give you just a minute here to get logged in. And if anybody has any issues, you can let me know. But so
It
far,
says that I'm not on an account that's SSO enabled.
not on an account that's SSO enabled. That is not true.
So I'm using the JJ, my UVA email. When I hit next, it said log in with UVA Net Badge. And so I hit that. Julie, I think I figured it out. I think you have to, there's a thing that says password. And so I'm going to use my Net Badge password and see if that works. Okay. I don't know. Because I had the same thing. No, didn't work.
Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of everybody who is in this session real quick. Bear with me.
Yeah, I think I signed up for an account a long time ago using my UVA email.
Yep,
And so I wonder if that's why.
possibly.
I didn't use. Me too. Before it was integrated with NetBadge, probably.
Yep, that sounds possible. So what I'll do, I just took a screenshot of all of you that are in the session. I'll email Matt Burgess, who's managing Poll Everywhere, and get him to contact Poll Everywhere because they'll have to merge your accounts.
Yeah, I wonder how many there may be a fair amount of people who have that because
Yeah.
I know other instructors have used Poll Everywhere before this fall.
Yeah. So I'm gonna I'll work with Matt at least for this group, and then start to reach out to others, and because I know Audley was using it.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking because we're working on a course together.
Yeah. So let me do this roster plus Audley to make sure that we can get those all merged together. So after this, I'll take care of that, and then Matt's pretty quick to respond. He's been, as everyone is, busy, but adding in some of these tools at the last minute has kept him super extra busy. So this is your login page. I'm sorry you're not able to follow along, but we'll get you set up. And so if you're familiar with it, you'll know that this is your login page. This is where you can create or import activities here. This is where you'll see any that are shared with you. These are account activities, and then in your trash can if you accidentally delete something. Up at the top, you'll see the activities page. You'll see a participants page. This is where we're going to go in, and I'll show you how to import your rosters. You also have a reports area, so you can export information. If you click on Create Report, you have some different information that you can export out of Poll Everywhere, even to a grade book. If I go back, and then you also have teams, and you'll see here, this is how you can share across this Poll Everywhere account. Right now, Math and Arts and Sciences is using it to share content across these two classes. So we're going to start with activities, and I have 3 groups created here. You can create a new group, and we can call this one Poll Everywhere Live Demo, and I'll create that group here. And then to get an activity started, you go up here into the upper left and click Create. And then here's where all of the different types of question options are available. So you see it defaults to multiple choice, but you also have a word cloud, you have Q&A, you have clickable image, so you can bring import images in and have the students respond by clicking on an image. You have a survey, open-ended, competition, and then a whole bevy under more that are available to you. You see short answers here, ranking, upvotes, and icebreakers. And you can see there's a prompt here under icebreaker because it's one that they promote as we saw in an earlier slide in terms of testing things out. But for right now, we'll stick with multiple choice just to show you how this works. One little bit of confusion is that title is not the title of the question as it would be, say, in Canvas quizzes where you have a question that question 1 or question 2. Title is actually the question. And so this is where you can put something like we are heading into which season? And then down here is where you can put summer, spring, add an option, winter, fall. And then you can associate an image with these. You can trash an option if it's not working. And then you can also select which one is correct by highlighting the check mark. You can change the order around the display like that. And then down here, you can assign this to a group. And we created the Poll Everywhere live demo, so we're going to assign it to that group. And then we can add another activity. And then we can say, which is your favorite season? And then use the same. I was asking my son this, he's 3, and of course it's summer. Spring. And in this case, there's not a correct answer, so you don't need to choose that option there. And then we have this since we'd set it for the first activity, the live demo group is already highlighted. If we had another activity to add, we could add it down here. In this case, we're just going to click create. And this is what this looks like after you've created it. Now let's go back one. So this is the first one we created. Right here, you see this is the link to the web that you can share out to your students for them to be able to respond. And then this is how they would then be prompted to register. Let's talk about how they can respond real quick, since we were covering this area here. Over here on the right-hand side, you have your configuration menu. And the first option is under how can people respond. This is the link again, as long as the activity is active. If you want to allow for text messaging, you can turn that option on. And you'll see that within the slide, the information on how to text becomes available. Continuing on, whoops, let me make sure. And you can also determine whether or not you want them to join the session via ABC 1, 2, 3 or custom field. Let me minimize that. Here's the audience restriction and identity. So right now, this is set to only registered participants. We can also put this to everyone with an auto-generated ID, or you can go completely anonymous. For this demonstration that we're doing right now, I'm going to keep this to everyone with no restrictions, so that you all can take part in this, especially Julie and Natasha, since you're having issues with NetBadge. It's unlikely that a student would have created an account, but that might be something for you all, since you're doing the working with K-12. Anyone working with K-12, if any of your students may have created a Poll Everywhere account, especially if it's affiliated with their UVA ID, we'd want to contact Matt and get their accounts merged. So one more thing to keep in mind with Poll Everywhere and your students and their UVA email addresses. So we'll minimize that. And then we have response settings. You can change this from 1 to however many times you'd like for them to be able to respond. You can also make it as many times as they'd like. You can set time limits. You can also allow or not allow them to change their response after they've made a response. You can show or not show the title activity on their devices. And then you can also send them a reply message or not in regards to their choices. So we'll hit save, and that'll lock those in. All right, since we're over here, let's move to the right of configure to test. And so if we activate the response, it'll show us this is what the students will see on the web. We can toggle that to text. This is what they would see on their text mobile device. And then this is what it would look like on present. So you can ask them the question, and then we present by going to full screen. This is if you were going to present using the Poll Everywhere web interface, which is what we're on now, but there are also ways to embed your PowerPoint in, or embed the activity in your PowerPoint. I am at the point in testing where I'm going to recommend using the web portal to do all of the Poll Everywhere engagement, just because there's been some issues with the PowerPoint integration that I'm working through with Matt. And this will just make it less, I wouldn't say less frustrating, because it's not frustrating. It'll just make it smoother for you and the students if you're using the Poll Everywhere. And so just a little tip: if you're on a Mac, it's Control Tab. If you're on Windows, if you're on a Mac, it's Command Tab. If you're on a Windows, it's Control Tab. But that's how you can quickly switch between your windows. And so I just recommend using that, so you can go from your PowerPoint, jump into your web portal, and then present from here. There's also one more method to share, and you can share out a response link to them if there are any issues accessing it through this portal or through the through text messaging. There's also the ability for you to live show the results to your students. So a couple of different things here in terms of configuring, testing, and presenting. So let me deactivate this real quick, and we'll cover a couple of the options here. So we have visual settings. This is where you can change the response visual from bar chart to column chart, or the donut chart. Also, you can change your color scheme. There's different ways to update your font. It's going to be limited because it is web-based, but these are some options that you have in terms of your font. You can also choose sizes from smallest to largest. And then you have voting instructions and the ability to change alignment, size, background color, and text color. Same with title, background. And then you can get down into some minutia in terms of the bars and the bar colors and the access and labels. And so these are some of the sort of granularity incorporated into Poll Everywhere. And then response totals you can change from percentage to count or nothing. And then any changes you made, you'd hit save. Activate, that's how we activate the poll, as you saw earlier. Show responses. So once the participants have begun taking the poll, they can you can show them the responses. You can show them what the correct response is. You can lock it, clear it, and then when you're ready to present, you can go into the to the full screen mode. So let's try this out. I'm going to provide you in the chat the shareable link. And so if you would, let me find my chat here. I'm going to put that in the chat. So you can either use the link I provided once I activate it, or you can go to, and I could probably just hit that to copy it. Oops. And I can put this one in here too. So you have these two options, or you can text your response. So if you want to, and I'll make it so that you can try, hold on.
Dave, what should we recommend our students open it within? I mean, for VoiceThread, you told us to pretty much use Chrome. Do you have a recommendation?
No, for this one, it's worked pretty well in everything. Every browser I've tested it's worked well in. So they've done a good job on that front. So let me activate. So yeah, in terms of web browser, but keep in mind that just like with Canvas or any other of the web tools that we're using for anything, if it's not working in Chrome, for instance, have them try Firefox or Safari or a different browser, and vice versa. So whereas I haven't found any issues for one browser over another, it's always good to have multiple browsers available. So to test this out, let me activate this one, and then you all can, and I'll go full screen on this, and then you can try it through the link I sent with the shareable link. You can try it through the, Zoom is in the way, through the pollev.com, David Stoops 887, or you can text it. And I've opened it up so that you can respond in multiple ways. So you can test this out with all three options if you like. So I'll give you all, we'll give you some time. I already have four responses. And once once I see the results go up a couple more, we'll start to show you the poll results. And I'm also here to answer any questions while we have a little break.
So Dave, so each activity is really a question. It serves as a question or acts as a question.
Correct. Yep. Each activity, and so it's not going to allow you to activate all of them at one time. So what we'll have to do is activate this one, gather responses, close it, and then move to the next one.
Okay. Is that the same in terms of the configurations? Do you have to adjust those each time, or is there like a standard default that you can set it if you want all your activities to kind of have the same configuration?
So those you do individually, but it will remember. It'll remember the ones that you've used last.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We have a couple. We have 5 results here, so we can exit out, and then I can show the responses in percentages. Then I can show correct. So you can see here where it's activated. We showed the responses. We showed correct. And then we can lock it. So now no other responses can come in. And then we can deactivate it.
If you didn't lock it, could we put response in and watch it grow?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and you can do that. That can be done live. So let's try that with the next one. Yep, exactly. Somebody went in. Yep.
Cool.
Exactly. And then there's a show correct. And then when you go to the next one, now here's something, Joseph, when I click on activate on this one, if I go back to, you'll see that it deactivated the first question automatically. So only one at a time. Now that this one, whoops, sorry.
That got me in a mess this summer when I was trying to set up my Poll Everywheres for a bunch of different classes. And then I didn't ever have the right one activated. I didn't really understand the activation thing.
Yeah, and so that is another reason why I'm recommending, at least at the moment, going through the web like we're doing now instead of through the, were you doing it through the web or through the PowerPoint?
Through the web.
Okay.
I was doing it just like this.
Gotcha. I've just found it easier to do it this way because then you can just, like I said, you can bounce between your presentations. And then once like you said, everything's in place, and then you can go to the next, activate, and then it'll step you through each of the options as you go.
Okay.
And it's set that way linearly. Joseph, I'm going to make an addendum to my response to you. It did not save my preferences.
Okay.
For each question. So I'm having to go in and make those configurations again for this question.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen it save in the past, but now I would say to err on the side of it not saving. So go through each question and make sure everything's correct the way you'd want it. So website, text messaging, and then everyone, and then as many as they'd like. Okay, and then present and share. And so now that this is activated, I'm going to activate that. You should be able to use the same links and texting that you used for the last one to respond here. And if we go into show responses, so there you go, Natasha, once you hit activate and show responses, then you can watch the results come in live. Test that out with the links that you have. And we're just going to make sure that they work. So that's the nice thing, is that once you have the link, either to the shareable link or the poll everywhere link and the text options, those will stay the same for the entire activity. So they won't have to change those up. And so in creating your activities and then using the documentation that comes from Poll Everywhere, you can go in and create your activities, and then when you send the instructions out to the students, you can say, all right, class, for this week's lecture, for our Poll Everywhere activities, this is the information you'll use in terms of getting access. So that, if you want to go through this link, if you want to go through the Poll Everywhere link, or through text, this is how you would do it. And then they'll have that information available. Again, if they're using the app, they'll just sign in and it'll take off from there.
I'm sorry, I feel dense, but I thought a poll was one question. Is an activity multiple questions?
An activity is one question. The group is the multiple questions part. So if I go back into my activities, let me deactivate this one.
Okay.
So if I go back into so this group has multiple questions within this group.
Yep.
I can only activate one at a time. So as soon as I go in and activate the first, once I go in and activate the second, it deactivates the first. So only one at a time. Now, if I go in here to this group,
I see.
so these are always going to be your links, and it's using the activation as the trigger to
choose
indicate that this is the one you should be answering now.
Okay.
So that's where they only were going to allow you to do the groups are really just folders, so you can organize. And I have an instructor who's lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, and the questions that they want to use for that. Once you have your links, this is always going to be how they. So I'm always going to be David Stoops 887. I didn't realize there were that many David Stoops in the country, but we have number 887. And then you also see that the link, whoops, wrong one. This link will always stay the same too. So that's the nice thing, is once you provide that information to them in terms of how they can respond, they can save that, and it'll be locked in for the semester. And then it'll just be a matter of making sure you activate the.
But that one professor who's doing it by lecture, each lecture would have to be a new one.
Nope. So that'll stay the same. So if I go down here, you'll see that stays the same. If I turn on the text messaging, it's the same.
Okay, so you just have your own thing.
Yep.
So whenever you use it, it'll be that. Okay.
Correct.
And it's generated for you. You didn't come up with David Stoops 887.
Nope. Yep. They created that.
And then I think this is because I don't have the university's account. I don't have the ability to create teams. That's a paid feature. And since I signed up just for the free thing. And so when I tried to do it this last week, I have 2 different classes, 2 different sections of the same class, and I had to just put them all in the same one because I couldn't have 2 polls at the same time because I don't have Teams with my free account. So,
right.
So I look forward to getting that back, because one is a group of teachers in Richmond City and one is a group of teachers in Henrico, and it didn't matter for this one particular poll, but I thought well, it would be better if they weren't all lumped together, but I couldn't figure it out. And there's a little diamond next to Teams when I log in with my non net badge login.
Yep. So we'll get that configured for you.
Okay.
Well, since we're in here in the web app, let me talk real quick about our participants and how we get them from Canvas and linked in here. That's under participants, and we're going to have to import a CSV. And I'm working to, like I said, I'm going to be meeting with Matt to see if there's a way for us to get this to be easier. But right now there's not. And so we have to download this CSV import. This is something that I have my student employees are on board and willing and able to help with this part. So let me download this CSV and I'll show you what this looks like. And so what information you must have, whoops, sorry. My computer always does this with the, I need to set the default to Excel. So the three options that must be included are the email, first name, and last name. And then the other options, these aren't needed. And then we get this information from Canvas. And if I go into the dashboard for my class, and you have to go into grades. And like I said, we're willing to help you out with this for these classes as we're getting everything configured. We go into export, and then Canvas will give us a document. And the reason I'm willing to help with this is because, and I tried this with Colab and it's the same way. What you get in terms of first name, last name, it gives you this, and we have to create 2 columns and separate the names out. The email part is fine. It's the separating the first and the last name. It's not hard. It just can be tedious. And so, like I said, if you want to do this, let me know, and I'll work with my student employees to get this configured. Then what I'll do is I'll send you back the configured CSV file, and then you'll go in, choose the file, and then once it's chosen, you can create a new group. So for Julie, you can create a EDIS 7700 or whatever the class name is, create, and then continue. Poll Everywhere will validate that everything is correct. And so it's not going to import anything that isn't configured properly. So if you come across and I'd be happy to Zoom with you to go through this process once we have the spreadsheet configured. But the nice thing is Poll Everywhere is going to go through and verify that everything's correct. And then once it is, it'll bring up everything. It'll show all of the people that you're trying to import into the system. And then you'll hit import, and then it'll bring them all in. And then with that, once that's completed, then the students, once they go in to take a poll for the first time, it'll ask them to sign in via NetBadge, and then it'll link them. So you'll have the information about how they responded built into Poll Everywhere. And so this is how we bring them in. So after today, if it's something that you want to try out in one of your classes, send me the information, what class or classes, and then I can work with my students to configure these CSVs and get them back to you so you can get them imported, or help you with the importation process. Because I know it's a little bit tricky, and I'm hoping that in working with Matt and with Poll Everywhere, that we can really get our Canvas integration such that it just is integrated, so we don't have to keep doing this process. So fingers crossed that works, and I'll let you know once it does, and once we get this streamlined a little bit.
In Canvas, is Poll Everywhere? It's not a tool that you select. You use like the web, like it's not something, like Flipgrid where you go. It's not an external tool that is connected to.
No, I mean, it's connected in that you can add it into your module, but then all it does is it links them back into the web portal. So it's integrated, but honestly, it's not much of an integration. So yes, it's not like with Flipgrid where you can bring it in as an external tool and have it embedded into that page. And so what I'm working with and hopeful is that between Matt and Pull Everywhere and I, we can make it more of a true integration where they're communicating back and forth, and we can add it in. The rosters are already there, and the gradebook can all communicate. So those are the next steps for me. Like I said, we've only had it for the last couple of weeks, so we're trying to get all that. And I know Matt's been working with a bunch of different groups, so we're all trying to make it work. But for now, it's a tool that we have access to. It works. We just have a couple of different workarounds that we need to do for now, and in order to make it do that. I will say it's been much easier. If you've ever had experience with iClicker, I've had not as many problems as using that in terms of getting it to work and the students getting that to work on their end. And a lot of it is just getting used to the presentation part of it. Now, real quick, let me talk about, there are a couple of different add-ons for you. The desktop apps for PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides, as I had mentioned earlier. I have the Google Slides integration is through if you can see on my desktop here, I have Poll Everywhere up here as a Chrome extension to add in Poll Everywhere slides into a Google slide. I also have in my applications folder, I have the Poll Everywhere for PowerPoint, and this will ask you to sign in using NetBadge. And then what it allows for you to do is once it's open, it basically brings up a limited version of this so that you can choose the activities you want to use for a class and then import those directly into a PowerPoint slide. But in using both methods between the PowerPoint integration and then just using the web portal, I found the web portal to be much easier for the students and for me, especially in terms of this ability, because it takes you down this path of, okay, we're gonna go full screen, and then we're gonna we went full screen, so now it's active. We're gonna activate it, and then we're gonna show the responses, and then we're gonna show correct. So it gives us this roadmap to follow, and then we can clear the responses and leave full screen. And then we can go on to the next one to get set, bounce back into our PowerPoint, and continue on with the presentation. Time for the next activity. Whoops. Now here's this, can go full screen. Going full screen activates it automatically, and so on. So just in the few weeks that we've been using it, I have found just using the web browser has been easier than PowerPoint, but you might find that to be not the case. So as we talked about earlier on in this presentation, you just want to be patient and test things out with the students and with you, and just let them know it's a new tool, and we're making this work, and let's test this out. And once you find, within the first 2 classes, you'll know which method works best for you, and go on from there. Last thing to cover real quick is in terms of help. That's always down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So this is how it's a quick way for you to be able to reach out directly to Poll Everywhere and send them a message. You can also go back into Poll Everywhere in the upper left, and you'll see help over here. This is how you can get into the support center with different guides from presenter to instructor, different support articles, as well as best practices. And then at the bottom, there's information about the professional support. And then back in this activities menu, there's a, on the right-hand side here, there's presenter tips. And so each day they have this blog post about some different things that you can use to make your presentations better, and just some different things that you can use. And then I'll be sharing out some of those tools with you later on. So we're right on the end of the presentation. Let me take the last bit of time here for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Dave, for your time and for giving the presentation. Very helpful. I just had a really quick question about your personal opinion or professional opinion. So for someone who's actually just interested in kind of engaging and keeping the audience engaged, would you like recommend Poll Everywhere as opposed to something like Kahoot? I don't know, like your thoughts about that.
I'm not. I'll say I'm not familiar with Kahoot, but I think as an engagement tool, I think Poll Everywhere is really nice. You know, I think I find it easy to use, and honestly, with the 190 person class that we're using it with, you know, I think we've had 3 or 4 students at the beginning that had an issue, and then later 1 student, and that was just a matter of their phone locked up, so they went to the web browser and used it. And so I found it to be useful, especially since we figured out that the PowerPoint integration isn't quite there yet, but using the web portal, it goes smoothly. You know, you can do those icebreaker activities. It's nice. Like I said, I'm not familiar with Kahoot, but I'll look into it and I can let you know what I think between the two.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really starting to like Poll Everywhere as a tool. It's one of those, like, I had to learn to be patient myself and just get used to how it works and the flow, but now I'm there and I like it.
Just a quick comment. I've used it not in synchronous meetings, but to put the link up in a Canvas in like an announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And then the teachers just responded on their own, and there was a cutoff of when they had to respond. And then I just had the results. I took a JPEG of it and posted the results in an like a overview announcement. So it worked really well, I thought, also for asynchronous. I mean, it's not as engaging, obviously, because you're not in person, but it was kind of a neat way to do it for if you're not meeting virtually synchronously.
Good. Yeah. And like I said, it's good for the before, the after, the during, and offline.
Dave, I will speak to Joseph's question. Just that I've only used Poll Everywhere a couple times, the free version, but I have used Kahoot a lot. And I said, I find that Kahoot works so much more as a formative assessment, more of almost a quiz to give you information rather than being what you were talking about, the discussion starter, icebreaker. This seems to have more of that capacity as far as engagement in the learning process rather than just getting a formative assessment of where students are.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Sasha. All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording so I don't forget to do that part.